This is what was bequeathed us, says our poet Gregory Orr. This earth, the beloved left, and leaving, left to us. No other world but this one. Willows and the river and the factory with its black smokestacks. No other shore. Only this bank on which the living gather. No meaning but what we find here. No purpose but what we make. That and the beloved's clear instructions turn me into song. Sing me awake. I really appreciate our poet's brilliant use of the word bequeath, a term that bends most of our minds towards last wills and testaments, maybe. I hereby bequeath this or that property to fill in the blank. All that we save and amass in property, in object, in money, many hope will make its way to the hands of the next generation for safekeeping or for growth. Keeping wealth, growing wealth, or simply striving for that which might secure a slightly better life for those who come after us is the hope for most. And it is a good hope. And of course, this hope also has its shadows. The system with which we were born into has twisted the blessings of bequeath into a narrow, inward-facing practice of hoarding and scarcity. There isn't enough. Individualism, how does it serve me and only me? What will I get out of it? Consumerism, transactionalism, everything can be bought or sold, and I expect things to serve me in exact measure to how much I have paid for it. Otherwise, I have the right to complain, return it, or take my business elsewhere. These mindsets, which also have been bequeathed us, have clouded the spirit of abundance, the spirit of reciprocity, and the spirit of interdependence. It supplants the spirit of love with the spirit of fear. In Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass, she teaches us about indigenous worldviews. And every time I read this book, I feel like something old in my ancestral lineage is being resurrected. You see, she has put voice to a way we all once lived and thought. If you are looking for good news in days such as these, know that people today are searching for their earth-based, ancestral, indigenous wisdom teachings with more intention than our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents ever did, and the knowledge is slowly returning to us. Consider the honorable harvest, Kimmerer says. They are rules that govern our giving and taking, shape our relationships, that the world might be as rich for the 7th generation as it is for our own. Kimmerer writes down some of the honorable harvest principles this way. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Harvest in a way that minimalizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. Here we are presented with a worldview that is not just about harvests and crops or good stewardship of the earth and her resources. It is also about relationships and community, leadership, decision-making, investment, all tethered to the principles of abundance and generosity, trust, gratitude, reciprocity, interdependence, share. All tangible and accountable embodiments of love that, in short, dismantle and disrupt fear and its many corrosive threads. The Unitarian-Universalist faith, it strives to live by the honorable harvest. Did you know that? We don't call it this, but it is true. We believe in equity, which teaches us to declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We believe in generosity, which teaches us to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We believe in interdependence, where we honor the web of all interacting interdependent existence. We believe in justice and pluralism and transformation, and we agree that no one of these RUU shared values can be separated from the other. If you are to consider how to live your life guided by a belief in, say, generosity, then you're going to have to be guided by the other 5 values. Generosity will never be made fully manifest within and beyond if you aren't considering justice or equity or interdependence or pluralism or transformation. As I've said before, it's not a menu, and you can be picky eaters all you want in the restaurants you go to, but not here. And we Unitarian Universalists also believe that love is the power that holds us together and fuels these shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living these shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And every decision, every vote in this community aspires to be guided by this, our honorable harvest of principles. If you consider yourself a Unitarian Universalist, then you are saying yes to the trying for this. Not just here within these walls, but everywhere you go, because we are full, weak people of faith. Now, it's this church's annual appeal kickoff today, as I said at the top, where each of you are asked to consider making a pledge to the church and to think about this over the next month. And this time of discernment absolutely means taking an honest, square look at the beans that we have in store, what previous harvests have yielded, and how we hope to plan for harvests and weather changes in the future. And we're going to do a bit of math, and we're going to show you pie charts about math and percentages. We're going to trust our chart makers and gifted walking calculators and plot planners. They're going to help us take good stock. But we need to do something more, my friends. We must arrive at this sacred, for that is what this is, this sacred season of discernment with the beloved's clear instructions in hand. This is what has been bequeathed you to us. How are you going to turn it into song? How are you going to sing it awake? It's our daily work as spiritual beings and Unitarian Universalists to know what has been bequeathed us and what we are bequeathing to those who will come after us. It's such a sweet and lovely dance we get to do. The dance of thanks and blessing, thanks and blessing. And when we lead with love, we are dancing that so well. We are in step on rhythm. Do you know, my friends, that beneath the carpet of this sanctuary is spring oak wood? Yeah, It was installed to give it the give once needed because this space used to be for dancing. Yeah, you can applaud it. Yeah, this space used to be for dancing. Yes, every week I am told dancing took place here, and it held such high value, such important value in the community, that when the wood was chosen to be installed, it better be the kind of spring oak or whatever we're going to call it to give so that our dancing is really good. What an apt and stunning foundation to worship on today, right? The spirit of give and dance is literally supporting you and holding us right now. I love that this has been bequeathed us. The whimsy of it is simply delightful, and it is still who you are, don't you think? This is still who you are. Another story about that which has been bequeathed us. My predecessor, your previous minister, Reverend Mark Harris, he wrote in his book, An Ancient Church, a whole chapter devoted to the gifts of Reverend David O. Rankin that Reverend David brought to this church. In the only three short years that he was here, it was his first settlement as a minister. He arrived here in 1966 when this church was on the verge of collapse with only 12 to 14, oh, that's sad. Those are sad numbers. People showing up to worship on a Sunday morning and 3 children in attendance at church school. And this was back when this was just the meeting house, and out these windows where the bank now stands was this big old Gothic church. Can you imagine what 12 or 13 people looked like in there? That's a sad sight. Reverend Rankin wrote that, quote, the old church stood there like a gray ghost on a knoll behind the square. The boards were cracked and broken, and the steeple leaned in the wind, and the parishioners' thoughts could only linger on the past as they sensed their history was soon to end. He compared this congregation with other urban churches of the day, 1966, right? Conceding that, yes, some of it was a sign of the times and demographics, but there was also in that sanctuary a spirit of inflexibility, he wrote. Limited vision, despair. He writes, an irrelevant theology, inadequate programs, and nearly every aspect of church life had disintegrated. Reverend Rankin, for an entire year, walked the Watertown streets and sidewalks. See, there are you evangelists, knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors, distributing literature to 6,000 families. A fire in his belief that, quote, the idea of a church only existing for the people who went to it was not going to work. It was convert or perish. So the old joke about you knocking on doors, not knowing what they have to say or talk about, not so. Oh, he knew what to say because the people came. 1, 2, then more. And moreover, he writes, they wanted to participate and give time and energy. They wanted to paint and buy furniture. They wanted a newsletter. They wanted something for their kids. They wanted adult religious education. They wanted a faith, Reverend David wrote. I wish I knew some of the names of those whose doors were knocked on and who came and who welcomed them, right? We etch the names of ministers into wood here, and trust me when I say it is an honor, particularly as a woman and the mother of daughters, to have my name planted in the beautiful long story that is the first parish of Watertown. And I have always wanted to know more about the people's stories and their names and what they looked like. The new parishioners who bought the paint and who bravely, come on now, who bravely told the long-timers, the 12 or 13 faithful ones, that it's time to change and dream of something new. Whoa. And those blessed elders who must have had to grieve some things, concede to new, snappy leaders with stars in their eyes, to loosen and to let go, but who ultimately joined them in this vision, who made room and blessed them, and who took faithful risks with them. They all needed each other in the great turning of the tide that happened here. Reverend Mark closed this chapter by saying that, quote, the challenge is still before us. Do we have a sense of mission? Are we going to be inner focused or find a vision for what can be? Is it just about you and fulfilling your needs? And then he gives us this caution. When we gaze only at ourselves, our boards creak and our paint peels. I would say that when we invite more, include more, imagine more, and these are the words that are printed on our wayside pulpit and have been there all month, we grow and stretch and get the ship out of port and into harbor where it belongs, for great ships such as yours and ours aren't meant to just sit anchored in port. Reverend David Rankin's energy and bold vision still lives in the bones and marrow of this church. I have felt it since the day I have had the honor and joy of joining you. And so does all of those who have sat and where you are seated and danced where you are seated in this space and in that Gothic beauty which once sat behind me and in front of you and beyond, all the way back to the original homes and lands and worldviews that tie us to the earthen world, the wisdom teachings that are also in the bones and marrow of this church, that teach us about stewardship and care and community and faithful risk and generosity and welcome and whimsy and floors that give and dance and love. Each of us, whether you have been here for 1 month or 50 years, has been bequeathed with the give and the dance and the vision, and also it is that which is yours to give and to dance and to envision. That's the sweet spot. You are inheritors of it, and you are the bearers of it. each of you. And over the next month, I want each of you to think about 2 questions. First, what are the gifts that you have received from this church and community? How has this church offered blessing to you, met your soul's need? That's the first question. And next, what can you give? And giving means a lot of things. What can you give to honor these blessings and make possible the blessings for those who have not yet come, whose doors still need knocking on, right? And who long for a sanctuary whose floorboards are soaked through with love and songs and sing us awake. Only you can know the answers to these questions. My hope as your pastor is that when you pledge, and I really hope that all of you will, that whether your gift is $5 a month or $5,000 a month, that you take a moment to see it as sacred and meaningful acts of thanks and blessing. It is a revolution that we've got stirring in here of thanks and blessing. It is one that disrupts what we are taught about wealth and consumerism and transactions and scarcity, and one that instead draws you closer to the more that has kept this community alive for hundreds of years, the more that spans oceans and epochs, and the more that is possible right now at a time when so many are clanging their bells of despair and smallness of visions, then the more that is still to come here. And I can feel so much more ready to come here. It really is stretched out before us like an infinite horizon. And you are a part of it. My prayer for you is that your act of sacred giving, in whatever form that take here, if it is only in being here and showing us how to cry, then thank you. Or whether it is an extraordinarily generous amount of money that stretches you to the brink, thank you. No gift is bigger than another's when given from a place of love and prayer. And that is my ask, is that it is given from that place where you are asked for love to lead you, not fear. And that you know yourself to be caught up in this big and beautiful story. What a big and beautiful story we have here. Now, I can't think of a better way to honor our dancers than to close with this song, Lead with Love, by Melanie DeMore, which I brought to you at the top of the month. And thanks be to Michael Collins, who's going to come up here and he's going to help me and us keep the beat. But I want you to hold something in your hearts before we sing this together. This is not just a song for us. Hold this quietly in your hearts with me. This is not just for us. Remember about the dance floor and the give beneath your feet. Know about the give and the dance that has been given you, that you're caught up in now. And consider those who will give and dance and sing here in 50 or 100 or 200 years. And I want us to hold this so close as we sing and stomp and make a joyful, ruckus, whimsical noise here together, imperfectly and perfectly, because that's what it's going to be, as our ancestors did and as those who will come after us will. All right. So, if you are so moved, will you now rise in body or in spirit? And the way this is going to work is we're going to start with the chorus, which we'll return to, and in between I'm going to do a call and response, and Michael's going to help us keep that clapping going, and you're going to shout back to me what I shout at you, and don't overthink it. We're going to figure it out together, and we are going to be in such perfect step, I know it. All right. You gotta put one foot, right, right. Put one foot in front of the other, there we go, and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other, you got it, and lead with love. Again, you gotta put one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. So you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. The path is there. Yes, you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. But here I am. Right next to you. So we gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. We gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. We gotta put one foot in front of the other